I was 23 when my world crumbled and took my dignity with it. My name's Joseph, and back then, I was just a regular guy trying to find his place in the chaos of early adulthood. I wasn't rich, I wasn't flashy. I had a modest studio apartment, a decent job at a mid-tier software firm, and a girl I thought I'd marry someday. Her name was Olivia. We'd been together for 3 years, lived together for almost 2, and had one of those relationships that felt quiet and stable. Not passionate in a movie script way, but steady, real, or so I thought. My older brother, Marcus, was the golden child of our family. You know the type: perfect teeth, perfect hair, smooth talker with the kind of charisma that made people believe him even when he was lying straight to their faces. He was 5 years older than me, already in management at a Fortune 500 company, drove a sleek BMW 5 Series, and walked into rooms like he owned the air inside them. My parents? Oh, they adored him. Joseph, why can't you dress more like Marcus? Joseph, your brother already bought a condo at your age. Marcus just got promoted again. He's such a hard worker. The word comparison doesn't even begin to describe how my life was stacked up against his. But here's the thing, Marcus didn't work hard. He worked smart. If by smart, you mean manipulative. He knew how to make you feel like you were the crazy one. He could twist stories with such ease that people didn't even realize they were being played. My parents never saw that side of him. I did. I grew up with it. I had the scars. Still, I tried to be the bigger person. I kept my distance, stayed polite at family dinners, and avoided direct confrontation. I figured if I just worked on myself and built my own life, I wouldn't have to live in his shadow forever. At 23, I'd just started making enough to think about saving. My boss liked me, my work was steady, and Olivia and I had started talking about moving into a slightly bigger place. She worked in marketing and had just landed a client that made her stay up till 2 a.m. some nights. But I was proud of her. We supported each other. Or at least, I thought we did. Then, one weekend, my brother came to visit. He hadn't seen Olivia in over a year. I still remember the way he looked at her when she opened the door. That fake little smile, like he already knew something I didn't. Olivia hugged him politely, a bit awkwardly, and I brushed it off. I should have noticed the way he lingered in the apartment, asking questions about our finances, our schedule, what we did on weekends. He played it off like harmless curiosity. Just catching up, little bro, he said, flashing that grin that made my skin crawl. He only stayed 2 days, but by the time he left, something felt off. Olivia was quieter, distant. I thought maybe she was just tired from work. I didn't press. That was my mistake. The first real crack came 2 weeks later. Olivia snapped at me over something trivial, dirty dishes or a missed text. I don't even remember. But her tone was sharp, cold, like I'd suddenly become a stranger. I tried to talk to her, but she brushed it off. I just need space, she said. Then, 3 days after that, she was gone. No warning, no long talk, just a folded note on the kitchen table that said, I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. I was numb. Confused. I called her, no answer. Texted, nothing. I even showed up at her office once, but she avoided me completely. That night, I sat on the edge of our now half-empty bed, staring at the spot where her shoes used to be, wondering what I did wrong. It wasn't until a mutual friend reached out that I got the truth. And when I did, it hit me like a punch to the gut. Apparently, Olivia had heard from Marcus, yes, my brother, that I was cheating on her, that I'd been sleeping with someone from work. He'd shown her fake screenshots. A burner email chain he claimed he stumbled upon. Fabricated chats between me and someone named Tessa. There was no Tessa. I'd never even heard the name before. But Marcus had always been good at pretending. Olivia believed him. Didn't even confront me. Just packed up and left. I tried to explain, but the damage was already done. She blocked me everywhere. Told her parents, her friends, everyone. My name became mud overnight. And my brother? He vanished. Didn't answer my calls. Didn't show up to our parents' anniversary dinner. Didn't even send a courtesy text. I sank into a fog after that. Lost my appetite. Stopped going out. My lease ended 2 months later, and I couldn't afford the new place alone. So I moved into a dingy studio with a mattress on the floor and a microwave that made weird noises when you looked at it funny. Work was my only escape, and even that felt hollow. What made it worse? Seeing Marcus on Instagram, all smiles with Olivia on his arm. She looked happy, radiant, even. The captions were filled with things like meant to be and right place, right time. I wanted to throw my phone across the room every time I saw his smug face pop up. My parents? Oh, they thought it was tragic, but they didn't take sides. Maybe she just wasn't the one for you, Mom said once. Don't let jealousy ruin your relationship with your brother. Jealousy. That word sat in my stomach like acid. They had no idea. 1 year later, exactly 1 year to the day she left me, Olivia and Marcus got married. A beach wedding. Lavish, sun-kissed, expensive. He wore a white suit and sunglasses like some discount James Bond. She looked like a dream. And me? I watched it unfold through filtered photos and a fake smile at the office. That was the year I stopped trying to fix things. I shut everyone out, especially my family. I stopped visiting for holidays. Skipped birthdays. I needed to build something for myself, something no one could take away. So I did. I started freelancing after hours. I learned how to code beyond what my job required. Built a few apps, failed hard, learned again. Then one day, I launched a productivity tool that caught on in a niche community. It wasn't sexy. It didn't go viral. But it was stable, and it made money. A lot of money. Within 3 years, I quit my job and went all in. I brought on a co-founder, scaled up slowly, reinvested everything. We got angel funding. Then a Series A. I kept my head down. Worked nights. Slept on a better mattress, but still on the floor because it reminded me of where I started. By year 10, I was quietly a multimillionaire. CEO of a tech firm that no one outside the productivity space had really heard of, but one that had 40 employees, a sleek downtown office, and a wait list of people who wanted to work there. I kept my name off the website. No interviews, no photo ops. Just business. My brother had no idea. We hadn't spoken in over a decade. I heard through the grapevine that his career plateaued, that his big promotion turned out to be smoke and mirrors, that he'd gone through layoffs, taken a few questionable gigs, and downsized from the BMW to a used Audi. Still married to Olivia, though? Still smiling in those filtered vacation pics. But there was something in their eyes that changed over the years. The spark was gone. I saw it, even if they didn't. And then one morning, 13 years after everything, he walked into my office. He didn't recognize me at first. He was there for an interview. I saw his name on the applicant list and thought it had to be a joke. But sure enough, there he was in the waiting room. Nervous. Polished suit that didn't quite fit right. Resume printed on thick paper like that would impress anyone. I watched him through the glass for 5 full minutes, sipping coffee, eyes darting to the walls like he was trying to memorize buzzwords. I asked my assistant to send him in. When he stepped inside and saw me, the color drained from his face like someone had flipped a switch. He didn't speak right away. He stood frozen in the doorway like his knees were made of sand. I watched his eyes flick from my face to the framed patent certificates on the wall, then back to the nameplate on my desk. Joseph Miller, Chief Executive Officer. The same last name as his. Though I'd quietly removed my middle name years ago, Marcus still used his like a badge of honor, probably to sound more impressive in interviews. Joe. His voice cracked, almost a whisper, like saying my name might shatter something between us. I didn't respond. I let the silence stretch, the kind that makes people squirm in their own skin. Wow, this is your company. He tried to smile, but it twitched like a dying light bulb. I didn't. Man, I had no idea. I gestured for him to sit. Resume. He blinked, then fumbled through his leather portfolio, hands trembling slightly. I could see the sweat forming near his temples. He passed the paper over, trying to compose himself. It's been a rough few years, he said quickly, like he wanted to explain before I even asked. After the merger at Verticorp, they laid off most of us. I bounced around a bit, consulted here and there. But I saw your listing and thought, small firm, tight-knit culture, interesting product, I'd fit in. I nodded slowly, flipping through the pages like I didn't already know everything I needed to. But here's the thing. The real story didn't begin in that office. That moment, the frozen face, the stuttering voice, the panic barely hidden behind a salesman's smile, that was payoff. The beginning? That was the part no one ever saw. The part where I swallowed insult after insult, betrayal after betrayal, all served with a side of family dinner and forced smiles. I still remember the Christmas after Olivia left me. I was 24, living alone, barely scraping together enough for rent. My parents begged me to come to the family gathering, said they missed me, said it wouldn't be the same without both their boys under one roof. I didn't want to go. Every bone in my body told me to stay home and avoid the circus. But part of me still hoped someone might see what I'd been through. That someone might believe me. I showed up in jeans and a wrinkled button-down. Everyone else was dressed like they were going to a gala. Marcus showed up 30 minutes late in a cashmere coat, Olivia on his arm, her hand resting gently on his chest like they were posing for a magazine cover. My mother rushed over to hug them both, like royalty had arrived. "Look who's here," she beamed. "Marcus and Olivia, the lovebirds." I stood in the kitchen doorway, holding a store-bought pie no one touched. I tried to avoid eye contact with Olivia. She didn't even look uncomfortable. In fact, she barely looked at me at all, like I was just another coat rack in the background. We sat down for dinner, and my father raised a glass. "To family," he said. "To new beginnings," Marcus added, clinking his glass against Olivia's. I didn't even raise mine. Halfway through the meal, my aunt asked Olivia how she and Marcus had reconnected. "Oh, it just kind of happened," she said with a sweet smile. "We bumped into each other after a rough patch. It just felt right, like we were always meant to be." I wanted to vomit. I excused myself and sat on the porch in the cold for almost an hour. When I came back in, Marcus cornered me in the hallway, that same smug grin plastered across his face. "You look tired," he said. "Rough year." I didn't answer. He stepped closer. "Just so you know, she never loved you the way she loves me. That's just the truth, man. She saw something in me you'll never have." I wanted to punch him. God, I wanted to break his nose right there between the coat rack and the family portraits. But I didn't. I walked away. After that, I stopped showing up to anything. Birthdays, anniversaries, baby showers. I erased myself from the family photos. And no one seemed to care. Not until years later, when the money started rolling in. But even before the success, even before the business took off, I worked like a man possessed. I stopped dating, stopped drinking. I barely spoke to anyone outside of my co-founder and a few developer forums. Every spare second went into building my software. Every failed version fueled me like kerosene on a fire. In year 3, I lived on instant noodles and protein bars. I had one pair of jeans, one decent jacket, and a backpack that was falling apart at the seams. I used to laugh thinking about Marcus polishing his BMW while I patched code in the back of a 24-hour diner using their free Wi-Fi. But the worst part, the part that changed me, was my parents. They never believed me about the cheating story. Not fully. They'd say things like, "Maybe Olivia just wasn't happy." Or, "You have to let go of the past." My mother even once said, "You can't blame Marcus for everything. Maybe you weren't attentive enough." That broke something in me. I realized then that I wasn't just second in their eyes. I was disposable. Marcus could lie, manipulate, sabotage my entire life, and they'd still set a place for him at the table while I sat alone. But I didn't argue. I let them think what they wanted. I let them have their precious golden son. I had work to do. By year 5, we were profitable. Not just scraping by, we were growing. Our client base doubled, then tripled. I hired our first full-time staff member, then 5 more. I moved into a real apartment. Not big, but clean. White walls, hardwood floors, a real bed. Still on the floor, though. I wasn't done yet. I watched from the shadows as Marcus's glow dimmed. I heard through cousins that Olivia had picked up extra work, that the BMW was sold, that Marcus was on LinkedIn every week, open to new opportunities. Funny how karma doesn't move fast, but it moves. And that brings us back to the office. To the moment where his hands shook as he tried to sell me on his experience. "I know you're probably shocked to see me here," he said, laughing nervously. "But honestly, Joe, I'm proud of you. Look at all this. You did great." I leaned back in my chair, tapped the corner of his resume, and said, "Why'd you leave Ardent Systems?" He blinked. "Oh, a mutual separation. Because the VP accused you of falsifying reports. Isn't that right?" His eyes widened. Listen, that was all exaggerated. Office politics. You know how it is." I tilted my head. "What about Italistech? You listed strategic partnerships, but the CTO flagged your name as untrustworthy." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. His face had gone pale. "I did my homework, Marcus. You weren't just unlucky. You were sloppy." There was silence. Then he finally said it. "I messed up, okay? I messed up. I got too confident. I cut corners. I burned some bridges. I'm not perfect, but I can fix this. I just need someone to give me a shot." And that was the moment, the breaking point. Not because he was groveling, not because I had the upper hand, but because in his voice, I heard the same tone I'd once used. That desperate, hollow feeling when everything slips through your fingers and no one believes you. The difference was, I hadn't deserved it. He had. I could see it on his face. The slow realization. The dawning horror that the kid brother he once humiliated now held his future in his hands. And I wasn't done. But just as I leaned forward to deliver my next line, the final twist of the knife, the office door opened, and someone stepped inside. I turned. It was Olivia, dressed in a navy pencil skirt, heels clicking like metronomes against the tile, her hair pulled into a tight bun. She looked older, sharper. There were lines under her eyes that hadn't been there 13 years ago. But what caught me off guard wasn't the fact that she was here. It was the way she looked at me. With recognition. With something else. Regret. She froze. Olivia stood just inside the doorway, one hand still resting on the polished steel handle like it could anchor her to something. Her mouth was slightly open, eyes locked on mine with a mix of recognition and something else, something heavier. It wasn't just surprise. It wasn't even guilt. It was awareness. Like she finally realized just how far I'd come, and how far she had fallen with him. The door clicked shut behind her. "Marcus," she said, her voice low and tight. Not quite a whisper, but not loud enough to be confident either. "What's going on?" Marcus didn't answer. He couldn't. He was still staring at me, his shoulders tense, jaw clenched, like his whole body was waiting for someone to wake him up from a bad dream. I stood slowly. I said, walking around the desk with calm, deliberate steps. "You're early for your interview, Olivia. Or were you planning to vouch for your husband?" She blinked, stunned, and shook her head. "I know. I didn't know he was coming here." I stopped a foot away from her. She smelled like vanilla and something crisp, expensive. She always did. But it didn't hold the same power anymore. That scent used to haunt me. Now it was just another trace of a memory I'd already buried. "I haven't seen you in 13 years, I said softly. "And this is how fate brings us back together. Not a phone call. Not a letter. Just this." "I didn't know," she repeated, her voice cracking slightly now. "I swear I didn't." Marcus finally found his voice. "You two know each other?" She turned to him slowly, eyes wide. "Marcus, it's Joseph." The realization washed over his face like cold water. And that's when it hit me. Not the victory, not the revenge, but the sadness. Not for them, but for who I had once been. For the man who gave his heart away, watched it get stomped into dust, and spent years wondering what he did wrong. I turned away from them both, walked back around my desk, and sat down. But that's not where this story turns. Not yet. Because before I could rise, I had to fall. Harder than I thought possible. And back then, long before this office, before the suits and the titles and the billion-dollar valuation, I hit a bottom so low, I thought I'd never climb out again. Let me take you back. After Olivia left, I didn't just lose her. I lost everything. Mutual friends ghosted me, probably believing the story Marcus fed them. My reputation took a hit. Even my landlord, who had once said I was one of the quiet, good ones, suddenly wasn't willing to renew the lease after Olivia moved out. Said they needed to do renovations. I knew it was because they thought I'd been the cheater. Word got around in that building. I didn't fight it. I didn't have the energy. I packed up what little I owned, some clothes, a few books, a broken coffee maker, and the cheapest mattress from IKEA, and moved into a studio apartment that had stains on the walls and a smell I couldn't place. It reeked of sadness. And maybe mold. Mostly sadness. I couldn't afford a real bed frame. I had no dining table. I ate on the floor, cross-legged like a monk, most nights in silence. The radiator made clicking noises in the winter, and there were nights I shivered under 3 layers of blankets, trying to remind myself this wasn't permanent, that I had to climb back out. But the mind is cruel when you're alone. It whispers. It tells you maybe they were right. Maybe you did mess up. Maybe you weren't enough. And I listened. For months. I went to work, came home, stared at the wall. Rinse. Repeat. My code got sloppy. My eyes were always bloodshot. I missed deadlines. I almost got fired twice. One night, I sat in the corner of my apartment with the lights off and a beer in my hand, thinking about calling Marcus. Not to scream at him. Not even to ask him why. Just to hear someone. To remind myself I wasn't invisible. I didn't call. Instead, I opened my laptop. It was almost 2 a.m., and I started coding. Not for work. Not for anyone. Just something stupid. A productivity tracker that sent motivational quotes to your phone every hour if you logged tasks correctly. The quotes were dumb. Don't wish for it. Work for it. Success is the best revenge. Stuff I used to mock. But I kept building it. 3 days passed, then a week. I forgot to eat sometimes. I dropped 6 pounds in 10 days. But I felt alive. And slowly, that dumb little app became something else. I added more features. A daily planner. A goal tracker. Sleep analysis. I named it Rise. Because that's what I needed to do. I published it on a small forum for productivity nerds. I didn't expect much. Maybe a few comments. Maybe a single download. I got 34 downloads in the first week. Then 200. Then an article on a niche blog picked it up. By month 3, I had 4,000 users. None of it was polished. The UI was clunky. The alerts sometimes crashed. But people liked it. They liked that it wasn't preachy or corporate. It felt personal, human, and I started to feel human again. I built a website. I learned how to write copy. I read books on psychology and behavior change. I updated the code every night after work, and eventually, I emailed an old colleague from college, Ben, the one person who had always believed in me. He'd been laid off from his startup and was consulting part-time. I pitched him hard. He said yes. We worked out of a library most days. Used free trial credits for cloud services. Had arguments over stupid UI colors and button placement. But we clicked. We incorporated a year later. Built our first proper version of Rise. Signed our first partnership with a school district that used it for student productivity. Then came the seed funding. Then more. People told me to slow down, to scale carefully. I didn't listen. I worked 16-hour days. I lived in my hoodie. I stopped dating, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't trust myself to open up again. Not yet. But I was climbing. One step at a time. I bought a bed. A real one. Then a desk. Then a small office space with a glass wall and a door that locked. I didn't buy a car. Still took the bus. I wasn't there yet. But I was close. And every milestone, every new contract or hire or round of funding, I wrote it down in a journal I kept under my pillow. Because no one believed in me when it mattered. So I had to believe in myself twice as hard. Back in the office, Marcus was sweating. He shifted in his seat, stealing glances at Olivia, who had gone eerily silent. Joe, he said again. Come on. We were kids back then. I was stupid. You were stupid. You can't still be mad. Mad. No, I wasn't mad. I was something deeper than that. I was done. But just before I could speak, Olivia stepped forward. I want to talk to Joseph, she said. Her voice wasn't soft anymore. It was steady, clear. She looked at Marcus. Alone. He turned to her, mouth open like he was about to protest. Outside, she added. He stared for a beat, then got up slowly and left the room. The door clicked shut behind him. Now it was just us. The woman who once left me without a goodbye, and the man who had turned heartbreak into a multi-million-dollar company. I looked up. She was already crying. And then she said something I never expected. Something that made the air in the room change. Joseph, I made a mistake. Her voice cracked on the word mistake, like it had taken 13 years to push it through her throat. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. I just stared at her across the room, suddenly aware of how small she looked now. Not physically. Olivia still had that posture, that elegance, but something in her presence had dimmed. The certainty was gone. The untouchable confidence she used to carry like perfume had worn off. What kind of mistake? I asked. Her eyes filled up fast. I believed him. Silence. She looked at the carpet, then back at me. I believed every word Marcus said about you back then. About the cheating. About the messages. He showed me everything. I didn't even question it. Why would you? I said, keeping my tone steady. He had the suit, the job, the smile. He could sell a drowning man a glass of water. She tried to laugh. It came out as a broken breath. I was young, dumb, and honestly, I think part of me wanted to believe him. That gave me pause. I sat back, studying her. What do you mean? I was scared, she said, wiping her eyes. You and I had something real, but it wasn't exciting. Not in the way I thought it should be. You were quiet, focused. You worked late. You were building a future, but I wanted fireworks. And Marcus, he came in like a storm. He knew exactly what to say, exactly how to make me feel like I was the only thing that mattered. And you married him. She nodded slowly. Worst decision of my life. I wanted to feel satisfaction. I really did. But instead, I felt like I was watching someone realize they'd boarded the wrong train, and the next stop was nowhere. Then why are you here? I asked. She paused. Her eyes scanned the office like she was searching for the right answer in the wood grain. I didn't come for him, she said finally. I applied for a role in your marketing team last week. I didn't even know it was your company until 5 minutes ago when I saw your name on the door. I raised an eyebrow. So you're telling me, after all these years, you show up at my office on the exact same day your husband walks in for a job interview, and it's a coincidence? She blinked. You think I planned this? I didn't answer. The truth was, I didn't know what to think. Olivia had always been good at wearing honesty like armor. You didn't realize until too late that it was painted tin, not steel. I'm not here to play games, Joseph, she said, voice quiet. I don't want to make excuses. I came because I needed a job. That's it. You came because you needed something, I repeated. That part sounds familiar. She didn't argue. I stood slowly and walked toward the window, watching the rain smear lines across the glass. Down below, traffic moved like nothing in the world had changed. But up here, everything had changed. And I was ready to act. Because here's the thing about revenge, it doesn't come from rage. That's amateur hour. The best revenge is quiet, patient, surgical. I wasn't going to scream at Marcus. I wasn't going to post screenshots or scream, gotcha, in front of the entire office. No, I was going to make him watch as everything he built crumbled, and everything I built stood tall without him. So I turned back to Olivia and nodded toward the door. Tell him to come back in. She hesitated. Joseph. Now. She went. 2 minutes later, Marcus re-entered the room. His tie was slightly askew, and there was a new crease in his forehead. He looked like a man walking into a courtroom without a lawyer. I gestured to the chair. He sat. Olivia stood to the side, arms crossed, eyes locked on the floor like she wanted to disappear. I opened the folder in front of me and pulled out his resume. Let's get back to the interview, I said. Tell me, Marcus, why do you want to work here? He blinked. I think it's a great company. Fast-growing, strong leadership, good values. I smiled. And what would you say are your strengths? He swallowed. I'm a problem solver. I know how to manage people. I understand pressure. I've been through a lot these past few years, but I've come out stronger. I nodded. Interesting. And weaknesses? He hesitated. I guess I can be a little too focused sometimes. Focused, I repeated. He nodded, relieved to have found his footing. I get obsessed with results. I don't stop until the job's done. That was a lie. Marcus never finished what he started unless someone else could take credit for it. I leaned forward, interlacing my fingers. So here's my next question. What would you do if you found out someone on your team had falsified data in a report to get ahead? He froze. Well, I'd report it, he said, choosing his words carefully. Immediately. That's unethical. Would you confront the person? Yes. And if it turned out they'd done it more than once? I'd push for termination. We can't have that kind of behavior in the workplace. Even if that person was family. He paused. For one brief moment, the mask slipped. Joseph, he said, voice quieter. I'm trying to move forward. Whatever happened between us. Please don't try to rewrite history. I picked up his resume and held it between 2 fingers. You lied. You destroyed a relationship. You poisoned our family. And then you lived the high life on the ashes you left behind. I dropped the paper. I should blacklist you from every firm in this city. He said nothing. But I won't. I don't need to. Because you've already done it to yourself. His face reddened. He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. You're not getting the job, Marcus. He flinched like I'd hit him. I can't hire someone with your track record. And I especially can't sponsor a known fraud. I stood. That'll be all. He stood too, slower. Joseph. That'll be all. He turned and walked out, shoulders slumped, hands trembling. Olivia didn't follow him. I looked at her. I'm not your enemy, she said softly. Not anymore. You were never my enemy, I said. You were just weak. And he knew how to exploit that. Tears welled up in her eyes again. But this time, I didn't care. I turned back to my desk and opened my laptop. She lingered for a moment, then walked out. But I wasn't done. The setup had just begun. That night, I called Ben. I want to create a new role, I said. He chuckled. Let me guess, head of petty revenge. Not quite. More like director of redemption. Ben had been with me since the Rise days. He knew the whole story, every cracked piece of it. He didn't even ask for an explanation. "All right," he said. "What's the plan?" I smiled. Because this wasn't about humiliating Marcus in public. That would be too easy. Too clean. This was about something deeper. It was about setting the stage. One where he thinks he's climbing back up. Where he believes the world is giving him a second chance. Where he starts to taste stability again. And then, just when he needs it most. I take it away. But I couldn't do it from my desk. I needed more. I called my legal team the next day and asked them to draft a consulting contract with a shell company I owned. One Marcus didn't know about. A firm that had been quietly buying up smaller marketing agencies across the country. I had been put out job feelers through back channels. Quiet ones. We knew Marcus wouldn't give up easily. He'd keep looking. And eventually, he'd take the bait. Because desperation doesn't read fine print. He'd sign on the dotted line, eager to prove himself. To rebuild. To impress Olivia. Maybe even to prove to the world that he was still somebody. And when he did, I'd be ready. He took the bait. 3 weeks after that humiliating encounter in my office, Marcus submitted an application through a third-party hiring agency for a project management role at a boutique consulting firm called Echelon Strategies, one of several shell companies my legal team quietly helped me set up during the early expansion years of Rise. On paper, Echelon looked legit. Clean website. Real clients. A slick mission statement about elevating brand equity through high-performance alignment. What Marcus didn't know was that I owned it. Not publicly, of course. The ownership was routed through holding companies and a trust in Delaware. I'd had good lawyers. It existed for one reason, to give me options. A place to test people. A place to hide my hand when needed. We scheduled the interview with a fake CEO, my old college roommate, Evan, who now worked in film production but had the acting chops to pull this off. We fed Marcus softball questions, nodded at his buzzword soup, and gave him the illusion of control. By the end of the interview, he was practically selling us on the idea of hiring him. We offered him a 6-month probationary contract, $85,000 a year, remote work, flexible hours, small but promising team. It was everything he was desperate for. He signed it within a day. And just like that, Marcus Miller was back in the game. He had no idea he was a pawn on my board. He showed up to virtual meetings on time, wore button-down shirts for Zoom calls, and started emailing aggressively at 2 a.m. like he was trying to prove he still had hustle. And to his credit, he wasn't useless. He was still the same smooth talker who could polish garbage into gold, so long as no one looked too closely. We gave him just enough rope to believe he was climbing. Then we started pulling strings. I had our finance team slowly introduce inconsistencies into his reporting dashboards, subtle, technical glitches that he wouldn't immediately notice. We tweaked timelines, added artificial delays, sent contradictory instructions from different departments, all managed by staff loyal to me. He started floundering, missing deadlines, sending frantic emails. I let it build. One night, we invited him to a high-level client strategy call, a chance for him to prove himself. We staged the entire thing. Client reps were actors. The project materials were gibberish and corporate drag, and the timelines were designed to contradict each other. It was a setup so clean, so precise, it could have been a military op. Marcus stumbled, tried to bluff, got caught. After the call, the client pulled out of the project. He panicked, emailed the fake CEO, called HR, demanded answers, blamed junior staff, blamed broken systems. At one point, he even implied it was sabotage. We responded with a 2-line email. Due to the recent project failure and client complaint, your contract will not be renewed. Best of luck in your future endeavors. But I wasn't done. Because revenge isn't just about the fall. It's about the landing. I had a final play. 3 days after his contract was terminated, Marcus received a legal letter, delivered by courier. It wasn't a lawsuit. It was a claim. Echelon Strategies was formally requesting repayment of the client's lost revenue, $147,000, based on a clause buried deep in the contract he signed. In the event that negligence or misconduct by the contractor results in loss of revenue for the client, the contractor may be held personally liable for damages up to and not exceeding 2 fiscal quarters value of the project. It wasn't enforceable in full, of course. My legal team knew it. Any half-decent lawyer would challenge it. But we also knew Marcus didn't have a lawyer. He couldn't afford one. He called the Echelon office line 6 times in one day. No one answered. He emailed twice. No reply. He tried messaging the CEO, Evan. Evan responded with a single line. Please forward all legal questions to our external counsel. He forwarded the email to a non-existent law firm. And then I struck the final blow. It was a Wednesday when Olivia showed up at Rise HQ again. Uninvited. My assistant buzzed me. She's in the lobby. Says it's urgent. I almost ignored it. But something in me wanted to look her in the eye one more time. She came in with a manila folder in her hand and a look I hadn't seen before. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't regret. It was resignation. Marcus is losing it, she said, skipping pleasantries. He hasn't slept. He thinks he's going to be sued. He sold the Audi last week and canceled our gym memberships. I leaned back, silent. She put the folder on my desk. That's everything I could find. His fake screenshots. The burner email account he used. Chat logs. Metadata. He kept backups on a thumb drive in the garage. I think he was proud of what he did. I flipped through the folder, page by page. It was damning. And 13 years too late. Why give this to me now? I asked. She hesitated. Because I want out. And because maybe I should have done this years ago. I closed the folder. You're not a victim, Olivia. I know. And you're not a hero. She nodded. I'm not giving you a job, I said. I don't care how qualified you are. I didn't come here for a job. Then why come at all? She swallowed. To say goodbye. I nodded. Then goodbye. She left without another word. I never saw her again. Marcus, though? He stuck around. Because the world doesn't let men like him disappear quietly. 3 weeks after the contract termination, he posted on LinkedIn, claiming to have been let go due to internal restructuring. He begged for job leads. Tagged 5 CEOs. Pitched himself as an experienced growth expert seeking new challenges. The post got 2 likes. I watched in silence as he tried freelancing. Made a course on brand acceleration. Pitched a webinar. No one showed up. His website expired. His email bounced. Last I heard, he was working part-time as a contractor for a mid-tier firm in a city 3 hours away. No office. No BMW. No marriage. Olivia filed for divorce 6 months later. Cited emotional abuse and irreconcilable deceit. My parents never said a word about any of it. They sent a card on my birthday that year. No return address. Just a signature. Love, Mom and Dad. I never opened it. People think revenge is about fire. About rage. About watching someone scream and grovel and beg. It's not. Revenge is cold. It's silence. It's patience. It's building something so strong, so undeniable, that the people who tried to bury you have no choice but to suffocate under the weight of your success. I never yelled. I never threatened. I never touched him. I just gave him a mirror. And he destroyed himself. The last time I heard Marcus's voice was on a voicemail I still keep saved, not because I need it, but because it reminds me how far I've come. Joe, I don't know what happened. I don't know what I did to deserve this. But I need help. Please, just call me back. I never did. Because the best part of revenge is knowing they'd do anything to undo the damage, while you've already moved on. And I have.
And whatever, so. Excuse me, who is this baddie in the kitchen and why aren't I Yeah, you should wash the dishes. Come wash the dishes for me, Moon. But yeah. I used to weigh my food a lot. Because I was like bulking at some point and I didn't want to overdo it, but I had to track my protein, so. Should I make a bowl for myself? Now that's fire. I haven't gone to the gym in like 2 years though, Gucci. I really do need to get back into it. Like, my gains are disappearing as we speak. Like, it's actually fucked.